Good evening, everyone. Hello, hello, hello. This is Auntie Kim. I'm joined with Jamal, my nephew, and it is Saturday night and time for our weekly podcast. I think this is number 11. Hope everything is going well. How are you?
I'm good and yourself.
I'm a little tired. I was at a with fall break and just trying to get some different things done on several projects I have going on. But
Yeah,
I'm here. I had to set an alarm, like, okay, I'm going to be snoozing. But
right.
outside of that, it's good. It's good. Glad to be seen and all that good stuff like that.
I feel
So,
you. I feel you.
okay. And you're working from your phone this evening?
Pretty much. I'm up here. I'm out here with family right now, so gotta have to step away for a minute.
Okay. Okay. All right. Good deal. Um, we'll give it a few minutes and have some folks join in. I don't see anybody as of yet, so I won't start doing any housekeeping. Up, I see someone's joined in. Hello.
What up, Dennis?
Thank you for being with us, Dennis. Appreciate you spending time with us on Saturday evening. We are
Absolutely.
we are doing well. Um, we'll give it just a few more minutes. The weather is I went to an event this morning and it started out and the weather's kind of crazy here in Atlanta, so it was real hot. Then the sun went down. And I have a packed if my vehicle is packed like I am, and I got the new tent in that I took out the box. But
Massive, huh?
hey Marcus.
What up, Marcus?
So we may need to shift our schedule a little bit next week as I will be in a major event on behalf of my jewelry business, K Collier Jewelry Designs, on next Saturday, and I will be quite busy. As you know, that's one of my, as we talked about, we have various projects, other projects that we all have going on, and one of my projects, in fact, is my jewelry business, and so I have a big event coming up, and I'm going to be preparing for that throughout the week, and then I will be there next Saturday from 12 noon to 10 p.m. Long day. But grateful for that opportunity, especially since that's, one of my side hustles. So,
Right.
listen, let's do a little housekeeping. The cutest, so Jamal, I checked. I'm learning how to check all my equipment as we as I get ready to come on. Since you don't like helping me, anywho, when you check the audio and you check the speakers, whatever, because you know you don't. When you check the audio and you check for the
Correct.
speakers, there's this cute song that comes on. It goes, "Ooh, check your audio. Everything is working." It's the cute. I kept clicking it. I was like, "Okay, Kim, everything worked. You can let it go." Just a little housekeeping. Come a long way. Just a little housekeeping. Listen, I would love. I'll be so glad when we can play some music. Listen, if you were to hear any music in the background or you hear some, please know that we don't own the rights to that. So don't be calling a popo on us because we're not gonna get in trouble. And then two, the rights, the comments and opinions that you hear during this podcast, those are belong to Jamal and I. And we know some things you may or may not agree with. We'll continue to tell you don't come for us because your feelings are going to be hurt. But
Pretty much.
anywho, but we love the interaction, the comments, and all that good those good things that happen throughout the podcast. So continue to do so. If you have not, continue. Please go out and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can also follow us on our social media page. We have a Facebook page and Instagram page, and obviously it's Get the Belt. And we will always, during the week before we go live, post the link on both pages so that you can join us from there. We have friends that do that, and we greatly appreciate that. The support has been tremendous, so continue to provide us with that support. I have my belt here. I have rearranged my office like I don't know how many times this week trying to get stuff together. It is so crazy. So you see this background. I didn't move the desk. I'm surprised the furniture just don't fall apart. Like, look, Kim, you cannot. I don't know how many times you want to move this desk, but it's just not. We're not moving anymore. It's just not. And in fact, I think I'm going to go out possibly tomorrow and go to IKEA because I need a little bit longer desk. But anywho, so all those good things are going on, but it's real important for me to have a good setup as we work through some things, and we promised ourselves as we have conversation and ask for feedback, we're going to try to keep this within 1 hour. We know we get to talking, but we're going to, our executive producer, Miss Rami, says that we really need to contain ourselves and try to keep this within 1 hour. So we're going to work real hard doing so. And we want to be mindful of your time, as I have various things to do. And I know that those of you here following us do as well. You always want to be mindful of people's time. So we're going to do that. Tonight, we are going to, last week we talked about music and we had some fun with that. It was kind of cool. And so I said, well, then let's talk about comedy and comedians. And so we're going to talk about our favorite comedian, our sitcoms, hey, and just kind of what goes on there. Sometimes the laughter for many of us carries us a long way. I have started, so I'm always researching as we get ready to do our various topics. And I've been watching the guy from South Africa, Noah something, that had a show, and he, I think it just went off the air. And the comedian, I know I should know his name. There's a comedian, his name is Roy. Do you know what I'm talking about? Kind of.
No,
Y-
I don't know.
y'all don't know who, you don't know who Roy is?
I have no idea who Roy
He's a comedian. He's a, oh my God. He's, what's, you know him. You've seen him. Roy the comedian. Roy Wood Jr. You don't know Roy Wood Jr.?
is. Not off. No, not just from.
Roy.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
So
yeah.
evidently he was on the talk show. He came on to share the, he was on the show with Noah, and I want to call Noah. Noah's the young man from South Africa who started out doing stand up comedy and then ended up with his own talk show. I think it recently went off the air. And they had this hilarious interaction that I thought was kind of funny. I'm going to share it even for me. Roy asked Noah, he said, Noah, have you noticed the size of the condoms have changed? So Noah said, Noah said, I'm sorry. He said, do you mean like less condoms in the package? You have to see the clip. Roy rolls his eyes. He says, no, you notice they've gotten shorter. By this time, the audience is like, oh my God. And Noah is going, he said, man, do I have to explain? But the interaction of this was just, and then if you were to read all the comments from the guys going, yeah, they're not as big as they used to be. They've gotten shorter. They don't go all the way up. You just like, Jesus, this was. But comedy, comedy would go there. So anywho, we're going to talk about our favorite comedians, our sitcoms, who we grew up with, the laughter. Sometimes they tell jokes, but they're really talking about real life stuff. I don't know if you were familiar with, and I'm bad on names. This was an older guy who's dead now. I'll find his name. But anyway, so what were some of your favorite comedians And what do you find your sitcoms? What's funny?
Growing up, I would say my comedians were Bernie Mac, Martin Lawrence. Um, there was a
And
I,
I know we got an age difference, so you gotta say something.
no, no. Oh, I would say Lavelle Crawford. He's definitely up there.
Mm,
Um, I like those are my main three to four that I like.
okay. Lavelle Crawford and who else?
Lavelle Crawford, Martin Lawrence, Bernie Mac.
Yeah, I saw Bernie Mac in person when he was first starting out with Miss Jennifer. As a matter of fact, we were here at a comedy club here in Atlanta, and he was just starting out, and he used to do that joke. He used to sing that song, "Buy Me Some Hot Dogs." You ever seen that? He
No,
take me. He did a rendition of "Take Me Out to the Ball Game." The people when they
I I never heard of
you
that
never
one.
heard you never people take me out to
I
the
mean, I know the song.
ball.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah, I
so
know that.
Bernie Mac had a rendition of it that he did in his stand up show when he first started. That was just really kind of funny. So he said, "Buy me some hot dogs." But we saw him here in Atlanta. This was years ago when he was first doing stand up comedy, and to think how far he went with that to end up with his own television show. No, it was your mother-in-law who talked me into watching. Was it Soul Men with Bernie Mac and Samuel L.
Samuel L.
Jackson?
Jackson. Hmm.
Jamal, I watched that movie screaming. I was not going to look at it because I thought, you know what, this could be absolutely stupid.
One of the best. The rendition when he walks up
By the
and
time the movie came out, they were deceased or shortly thereafter. And I'm thinking, you know what, I'm not going to watch this because it's stupid. I have not laughed. I sit here in my house screaming and laughing at them two idiots. I was like, I don't know how they got through the movie. I do not know how they got through the movie. So for me, I grew up on, so it was a combination of some of the white comedians and black comedians like Red Fox, who and Richard Pryor. And when I was little, and they had albums, and whenever they would play the Red Fox or Richard Pryor albums, as kids, we had to go upstairs. Not like we couldn't hear it because the record was up loud enough, but we couldn't. We were not allowed to be down when they were playing the Red Fox. Red Fox is comedy was what they call the blue room comedy. It was so foul. I wonder how he got through his television show without cursing. Because if you
he cursed on Sanford and Son.
not like Red could cuss.
Well, I know that, but he didn't go full potty mouth on him. But yeah, he cussed on there. Sanford
So
and Son is arguably one of my favorite
absolutely,
shows. Period.
absolutely.
Still watch it to this day.
So Red Fox, George Carlin was a white comedian, um, and he since deceased, and he was always very real and down to earth. And as he got older, he just kind of got down to earth. He told a joke one time, and I know somebody, please don't come after me. This isn't. I'm just saying. George said, "Do you notice that all the women who are against abortion are the ones you really wouldn't fuck because they're so ugly anyway?" And the audience was like, "Oh Jesus!" It was like,
It's real stuff.
he's like, the rest of them are not, and and this was like maybe early '80s, and I was like, wow. But George went there. He just kind of got real with this conversation. Um, Richard Pryor was real, and I recall when Richard Pryor went through when he went to his live, and then he started acting, and he was actually a decent actor. I recall when he had his accident. I recall when he would stop using the N word. He had a profound epiphany. From there, he would stop using that. I recall when he had the accident and he caught on fire. We did not think he was going to live, and he survived that. And one of the funniest movies is at Harlem Nights, when they've got him and Eddie Murphy
Arsenio Hall, Eddie
and
Murphy.
all of them. And so I was on a post, a Facebook post, reading something. This lady said she went to see Harlem Nights, and she was offended by the cursing. And me and this other lady said, "You went to a movie that had Eddie Murphy, Richard Pryor, Red Fox, Arsenio Hall, and for that matter, Della Reese cussed her behind off too, and you were offended. What did you think you were going to hear?
Right,
Whether it was
right,
necessary or not, but that was a very it was a great movie. But what did you think that you were going to hear?
right.
So I loved Sanford and Son. I recall when Red Fox had his when Richard Pryor had his show on TV. It couldn't. He pushed the envelope. Oh, he pushed the envelope, so it didn't stay on very long at all. Um, I loved watching the Kings of Comedy. Um, I never went to a show, but loved watching that and seeing that interaction. But I grew up in the era where Phyllis Diller, and I don't know if you know who that was. She was a white female comedian. She dressed real crazy. She was funny as she was always talking about her husband and I think her mother-in-law. Um, but that was cool. So it just some of the things kind of got through some comedies, some comments I don't particularly care for. And then there's other shows that are funny. Like I love watching In Living Color. That interaction was cool. Um, I
Started
guess
a lot of started a lot of careers from
yeah,
that show.
absolutely. And there was a lot of talent um, on
David
that
Allen
show.
Greer,
Yeah,
Jamie Foxx, uh, shoot, Damon Wayans. You
yeah.
know,
There are the white guy.
Kim Wayans,
I can't call his name, but he says no one else would give him a
Jim Carrey.
chance. He said nobody else would give him a chance. He said, but he talks about his in his story. He said nobody else would give him a chance. They would deal with him and his type of comedy. He said, but the black guys did, and then look what he ended up doing. He blew up
Right.
from there. So
Yeah.
a lot of people got their
Came out the
footing
lane.
from In Living Color, even down to the
Hmm.
dancers. I think J Lo was a dancer on In Living Color.
Absolutely. Yep.
Yeah,
Yep.
so that platform there was powerful. Um, One of my favorite shows I used to love to watch was In Living Single with the girls, and that was cool. And it's my understanding they kind of, I think they were pitted against some white show. I want to think of it. Libby says since Friends or whatever. I think they might have been on the same station, and they talk about they felt that a lot of the power went behind Friends, and
Now they
that
weren't on
was
the same station. I think they were on the same, maybe at the same
same
time,
time.
because Friends was on NBC and Living Single was on Fox.
Okay,
Because
so I
I
think
remember the
that
lineup.
okay, so I think that they felt that the Fox did not stand behind them enough, knowing that they were pitted up against Friends, and they continually had that type of debate there. I grew up with Rodney Dangerfield, who is since dead, and he used to talk about his mother-in-law and his wife, and he ended up going. And you have a lot of comedians that end up then going into acting. He was one of them. So who else? I don't follow too many comedians these days. I know Lavelle Crawford. The Kings of Comedy. I think I've watched Cedric the Entertainer his last show. I watched Monique. I watched her show that came on early this year when she finally got her special on Netflix, and she did that, and it was good. It was interesting. But I don't follow too many as much as I did previously. I like Gary Owen, and I've seen him in person as well here in Atlanta. He told the joke the first time he went to a black church and the Holy Ghost hit him and he jumped over the pew. You know, I like his comedy. Um, Courtney, I can't think of his name. Has a special on now at Netflix, and he's the guy with the 10 kids, young guy. He started out doing stuff on Instagram, little
Country Wayne.
tidbits, and now he had a special, and that was on. Um, but some of it's changed just a little bit, and so I don't necessarily keep up with all of it to that degree.
I'll
But
say Kev.
Kevin
Okay.
Hart, yeah, but I don't. Kevin needs to stay away from movies. But he did good. He tries to act, and to me, it's the same. It's always the same.
Really?
I don't think. I think he can stick to comedy and leave acting alone.
There's two movies that he actually, in my opinion, he did very well. He played what was it? I forgot the name of the movie, but he helps a guy out. He was supposed to
Yes.
be trying
Okay.
to
Yes, he did.
help his family out or whatever, and trying to get his son.
I'm going to
And
Google and tell you that
he,
movie. That
uh,
was. I did watch that.
yeah, that was a movie that he played. Um, he was a serious role.
Okay. That was good. I did watch that. It was based on a true story.
Hmm.
So I did.
I
I did.
agree.
I like that one with his little short self.
Yeah.
I tell you who I like. Quinn says I'm the opposite. I like movies, but I never like to stand up. Okay, that's interesting.
No, I agree with Quinn because I'm like,
Do
I don't really like his newer type stand-ups either. Like his old stand-ups, it was a stand-up he did for like it was I think it was like a Showtime special,
the
and he did it
upside,
for yeah, the
the
upside.
upside.
He did it was an all-star weekend for Shaq's all-star weekend. And that right there, he did that one, and I forgot it was another one he did, like I think it was right after that. That, in my opinion, that's when Kevin Hart got good. And then he did the last one. He was telling people to get fired on these. I forgot the name of that one, but it was like three of them, three maybe four of them. That
Ke-
Kevin Hart he was doing good stand up wise. After that, I didn't care for him. Movie wise, like you said, that movie there, and then he did another movie with Wesley Snipes.
that series that was it on
Yeah,
Netflix? Now that
yeah,
he did some serious acting, and that was
yeah.
good. So I give him his kudos on those two there. Don't come for me, but I'm gonna tell you who used to give a good stand up, very good, and who also did good in movies, and that was Bill Cosby. Back
Yeah,
in
Bill,
back
Bill
in
was good.
back in
Yeah,
his
Bill was
day,
good.
Bill was the bomb. Yeah, he did. Yeah, and you cannot take away from the Cosby Show, but back in the day, Bill would do a um, sold out show. So
But
yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say you can't out. I also have to remember too. Uh, Eddie Murphy did his thing, and I think that you can't talk about comedy and everything that had to deal with comedy without talking about Eddie Murphy, especially in the '80s.
Yeah,
Eddie Murphy ran the '80s.
yes he did.
Comedy, stand up, movies,
Yes he
you
did.
name it, he did it because you got to remember he was doing uh he had the Beverly Hills, he had all that those movies. Um,
I
What
think he
else was
did
he
Doctor
doing?
Doolittle. He remade
Yeah,
that.
he did that.
He
But I
remade.
was talking about just the '80s alone. You
Yeah,
had Harlem Nights, you had Raw, you had Delirious, you had like I said, you had all the Beverly Hills Cops, you had Coming to America, you
yeah,
had another 48 Hours, you had 48 Hours. Um,
yeah.
Eddie
So
Murphy
he's
was running. Eddie
yeah,
Murphy was
yeah,
running.
yeah, and he's come a long. He's come a long way, even in his maturity. Quinn says maybe it's a generational divide, but I hate Delirious, and it may be because they're younger than yeah. So you yeah you would have had to
You had to be there.
you had to
You
been
had to be
there
al-
yeah
you had to
yeah
be alive in that time to
yeah
understand
to
what they
get
was talking about because
yeah
a lot of stuff y'all just wasn't around to see it then to
and to be
understand it.
yeah and to be honest, particularly on when he talks about the homosexual the
Yeah, that's what
LGBT.
he
I
talked
want to
about. Yeah, he
right
talked about the gays and
right.
let's just be real. Like,
But
yeah, that's what he
I
talked
wanted to
about.
say the LGBTQ
Yeah, all
community.
them alphabets.
He he could not get away with that now as much.
Oh no,
He
no,
could
no, no.
not. Yeah, he could not. He could
These
not.
kids are too sensitive now. They couldn't take that comedy.
Yeah,
They
he could
can't
not.
take half the stuff. Like, think about when there's Bernie Mac had a nephew that he talked about with the milk and cookies, and
Yeah, Milk.
you can't talk about that joke like he had to hear what his
I want
nephew
some
had to
milk and
say a couple of
cookies.
times, and
I
it's just
was
like
right,
is there certain jokes that are before their
right,
time, or I shouldn't say
because
before their time. They're for their time.
right, and I think part of that for people who didn't know, he in real life adopted his niece and nephew. I think there were maybe two or three of them because his sister was on drugs. He talks about
Three.
the family calls, say, hey, they get ready to take the kids. He shows up to court and everybody's looking at him. And I think between the child may have been special needs or whatever,
Yeah, one was
all that.
sweet. The other
Yeah,
one was it was a little one
yeah,
that was pretty much the ringleader, and then you had a quiet one,
yeah,
and that's how it was. That's how that show, the Bernie Mac show, got started
yeah, yeah.
because it was like a little spinoff of that actual
Of what
story
really,
that
yeah,
he ran with.
so he actually laughed through the reality of his life, which is like, wow. And how many of us, could do that? But that's what he did, was laugh through that. And then, I guess then obviously, we can't forget about Dave Chappelle. And, he continues. Dave will push an envelope as sure as I don't know if he doesn't care or he just believes that, what the hell, what, we should talk about it. And so he does. And I catch him. Netflix does a pretty good job of when they give people their comedy specials and they kind of come on and do their thing. But yeah, we can't forget Dave Chappelle from there, and what he does. And then you know what, we gotta. I think we have to give justice to the female comedians, Monique.
Mm,
You don't like Monique,
never have,
really?
never have. Monique just says that Monique was the only one that she tried to her whole thing was let me be funny about because she at the time she was the big girl that wanted to make fun of the skinny girls. And that was just like her whole thing. You know what I'm saying? Constantly. But I feel like when it came to like originality and everything like that, it was always the same type of thing. Now some more, I'll give her credit. She jumped from topic to topic. Granted, she spoke on relationships. You know what I'm saying? She was definitely one that and she's still out. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
she and
Out of new nose.
yeah, she. What? With a new
She-
nose? Did you?
Yeah, she
Did you?
got a new nose. I think she got some new teeth too. So she's trying to look
Where?
younger.
Where every no, everyone goes to get new teeth. I mean, if you look
I
at
didn't.
that's because we're not making that kind of money. But if you look at a whole lot of folks, if you look at tapes from back in the day, looking at it like, oh, you got a y'all went and got them teeths.
Understandable, I
It's a
guess.
whole bunch of them for that matter. Eddie Murphy is
Hmm.
somebody who was ugly as hell when he came out. For him to be a handsome gentleman now, but money, because money does wonders for a whole bunch of people.
Absolutely.
But Eddie, I think Eddie might have had a chipped tooth if I can remember. So yeah, from
Arsenio
that.
Hall had some big teeth too back in his day. I mean, he still do. And he had them fingers. Remember, he had that long finger. That's why he used to always remember. That's what Keenan Ivory Wayans used to always make fun of him about with that long finger. He used to always have that. He used to have that long index finger. Ah, yes. He used to always do that. So
Loved his show. Oh my God,
mhm.
loved his show.
Marcus know what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah,
Like it's I can go back with another famous one. Rest in peace, Robin Harris. Robin Harris had one
yeah.
of the funniest
Baby
lines in
kids.
House Party. Remember
We
House
don't
Party? You know what I'm saying?
we
So
don't die. We multiply.
yeah,
And you
yeah.
know what? And it brought to life, and it's part. It brought to life, and I got to give it to you guys who have tried to like a woman, but she had a whole bunch of badass kids, and you couldn't take them nowhere. Like you were trying, like I really want to date
Hmm.
this woman, but these badass kids.
Plenty of them.
And
You
he
remember the
ended up with a
comedian?
he ended up with a
Oh,
cart. They did a cartoon for a while, Baby Kids. I remember that. That was tragic. He died way too soon. Yeah.
yeah. But okay. See, speaking of comedy like that, cartoon comedies, you got to remember the PJs. That was another Eddie Murphy one. See,
Oh,
my folks know about the PJs.
okay,
PJs is
cause
on. Yes, PJs was about a guy. He was the superintendent in the hood of this um, housing community. I'll just say it that way. And the PJs was funny. I think the PJs still come on now
I
on
don't.
certain streams or
I'm not
whatever.
familiar.
Oh yeah, yeah,
I'm
yeah.
sorry.
Y'all
So
y'all know.
I'll
Yeah.
go back to the, I guess, early '90s when Def Jams. You couldn't call me. You couldn't talk to me. You could not say anything to me while Def Jam comedy was on. That gave a lot of people their footing. Some of the stuff that
Chris
went
Tucker,
on. Oh yeah, talking about Michael Jackson. But the careers that were catapulted from that show every Friday was great. And some of
Hamburger.
those, who
Y'all
ham
remember the good
ham
hamburger? He used to have,
hamburger.
yeah, Martin used to host it. But it was a guy, he used to wear a cowboy hat. He used to always go hamburger.
You're
But
kidding.
he was on there, man. Bernie Mac, you know, he had his arguably his best stand up from Def Comedy Jam.
Because
Um,
I think the first time he was on, he came after somebody who had absolutely bombed, and they
I ain't
show
scared
and
of you,
talk
mother.
about. He's right. He came out. He was like, I've just got to go out there and tell you. But he came behind someone because there was a few. You was like, not sure where y'all came from. But I
Hmm.
recall that he came out and said, I'm not afraid of y'all at all. And, it went from there. But that gave a lot of people.
Hamburger was all right, Quinn. He was all right. I ain't gonna say he was great. He was all right. He was all right. He was all
He,
right.
Quinn doesn't. Marcus says you, oh, Marcus said you don't, because he doesn't understand. Yeah.
No, 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 no. That's what Bernie Mac said on there. You don't understand. He was like, shoot.
Oh,
I ain't scared of you, mother.
Right, right, because
Yeah,
he came.
see.
I want to recall whoever it was he came after, but it was, I remember it was awful. He just came. I said, I am not afraid. And Bernie said, I'm not going to jail. I'm snitching. I'm telling on everybody. He said, I don't know
Hmm.
whatever code y'all got, because the kids in school do that. What
Yep.
happened? Don't nobody want to tell. Bernie said, I'm telling everything on everybody. I'm not going to jail. And I'm with Bernie. I'm not going either, Bernie. You better speak up and say something. But that was, but let's go back for a minute. When we talk about people helping other people, there are a lot of people who talk about how Red Fox helped them when he brought them on that show. So the Karate Kid, the I'm gonna say Agent Mr. Marashi. I don't. I'm gonna get the name wrong. Whatever. But you know who I'm talking about. What's the man's name? Close enough. What's the man's?
Ralph Macchio. I think that's
No,
his,
no.
the
The
real dude.
Yes, the older Asian
I
gentleman.
don't know that. I know what you talk
Okay,
about.
Mr. Right. He
Mr.
says that it
Miyagi.
was Mr. Miyagi.
Miyagi.
Anyway, but you know who I'm talking about, though, don't you? That
This is comedy
comedian,
here. Here you go.
right?
This is your portion
He
of comedy.
said
Here we go.
he said it was Red Fox who gave him a chance in Hollywood, right? Because he used to be on. He would come on the Red Fox show every now and then. He said, and that's who gave him his chance was Red Fox. And there were a lot of comedians. He and Aunt Esther were best friends that grew up together. And so there were a lot of people
Quiet
who,
as kept. Esther back in her day used to be fine.
yes,
She
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 was.
didn't she didn't she might not looked her best when she was on Sanford and Son, but in her prime, oh, y'all better Google her. She was
Yeah,
actually fine back in her day.
yes. And they used to
Believe you
think
me.
Dean Martin used to do this comedy roast, which is kind of what the Shaq thing is now, comedy roast. And whenever if you go back and look at those, it was in Las Vegas. She was always on the platform for all of them. I don't even think she might even knew half the people, but when they called her name, everybody was like, "Oh my gosh, she call you a hunky in a heartbeat." But
I
she was on
never
everything.
I really wasn't a fan of Steve Harvey, even though I give him, kudos or whatever to a certain extent. I'm not really a Steve Harvey fan like that. So I'm in Kings of Comedy. I actually my mom and my dad, they actually paid for my cousin Shanae, matter of fact, just saw her last week. And Jamal and myself, we all went to the Kings of Comedy when that was an actual tour before the movie came out. So I actually got to see the Kings of Comedy on tour live when it was going through. I was happy because I got to see Bernie Mac, and Bernie Mac has always been my number one comedian ever, though.
So then there's this cohort, David. Is it Dave Hughley? Is
Who?
his first Hughley? Is his first name David Hughley? There's
No.
three of them. There's
Um, Dang, why did you just say it?
I know I'm
Hughley.
Mr.
Oh man,
Hughley. We're just gonna say Mr. Hughley because he ended up with his own show. Mr. Hughley. Isn't that his name, Dave Hughley?
it's not Dave. No,
What's the man's
no,
name? Mr. Hughley. Look at Google. Google's our friend. Hughley.
not
What's
Hughley.
this?
His last name is Hughley. Golly, I just went blank because you started saying Dave. Dave ain't his name.
What's the baby's name? Hughley. It's D.L. Hughley.
DL Hughley.
So
Not
isn't David his first name? Is it
well. I'm
just
sorry. You could very well be right, but he goes by
okay?
stage
D
wise DL
D.L.
Hughley.
Hughley.
Not,
Okay.
I'm like
Okay.
Dave Hughley.
So
You in
he's
full government.
I like his comedy, and he ended up with his own show, which was cool. Um,
Got a
out
good
of
talk
that,
show.
so yeah, so out of all of those guys that were the originals from the Kings of Comedy, they all end up with their own programs. If you think about it,
Cedric Entertainer has a show now.
yeah. Which show is that? Have you
I
seen
for,
him be? Wait a minute.
I forgot what the name of it.
Have you seen him be the cafeteria lady?
Yeah, I remember that show. Yeah, I remember that one. I remember that.
He talks so bad to those teachers, Jamal. He tell all their business. He said
Keep
they no
going,
more
keep going.
he said no more damn peas. You you gonna get mashed potatoes and some gravy. And you like, oh my God. So I like Cedric the Entertainer, but I like the cafeteria lady. He does that, and I think we can't leave out Jamie Foxx, who
That's
kind
what
of
I had
started
already
out.
said him.
Okay,
Mm-hmm.
who kind of
Name
started out
your
in.
before I go. Hold on. Name your female
When he
comedian.
did, they did the dating game, and David Allen Greer ended up getting picked by Wanda. And the first time he saw Jamie Foxx dressed as Wanda, he lost it. Um, but who's multi-talented, who's also then ended up in acting. But Jamie started out, in comedy, doing some of that, and it's come a long way. I think what he got an Oscar. He won the Oscar for the Ray Charles movie, and has done several movies. Gifted singer and all that. But he started out doing his comedy, which was kind of cool.
Can't
So he's
forget
come a
Tommy
long way.
Davidson.
Yeah, Tommy's funny as well, and an interesting life for him to even be alive and laugh and even talk about that. Yeah, for real,
Tommy
for
Davidson
real.
is definitely up there. Him and Jamie Foxx did the movie Booty Call.
I didn't
Yep.
watch Booty Call,
Oh man, Booty Call with Vivica Fox, uh Tamala Jones. Shout
and I'm
out to
probably
Tamala
gonna tell you,
Jones. She's from Pasadena.
I
Actually
probably
grew up with her sister, so I knew her in
I
person.
I don't care for Vivica Fox, so that might have been why I didn't watch it.
Understand? I can understand
Yeah,
that.
yeah. So
Um,
that
Mike Epps.
yeah, from Indianapolis, Mike
I,
is, and he has a good show on now with Kim Fields and Wanda Skikes. It's on it might be Netflix or one of them, but it got
the
picked up.
Uptons
Yes,
or
it's
Upshaws.
yeah, it's actually a good show, and it got picked up for a second or third season. And
Hmm
it's really it's you talking about, I think they call them the ghetto twins. So he has two children the same age. They both. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
that's not funny. So for any ghetto twins out there, please forgive me. I just but
that's
so he's
funny. That's funny.
he's trying to co-parent with the ghetto twins, and the baby mama keep dropping it. Just all of that, and that interaction between he and Wanda is just because they're brother and sister-in-law, and so
Hmm
she's there quite often. They are hilarious, and Wanda's funny.
I was about to say Wanda has her moments. Wanda has her moments. Uh, yeah, she has her moments. Ellen
I was gonna say
Degenerates,
Ellen,
whatever her
who
name is,
who started
Degenerate.
out who started out as a comedian and had a wonderful talk show for many years to whatever COVID did and kind of messed it up. But she started out a comedian, and as
Hmm
far as I'm concerned, did some wonderful things through her talk show. Absolutely
hmm
wonderful things. But she was a stand-up comedian. Yeah.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
Rosie O'Donnell, who had her own talk show, stand-up comedian, and
Yeah.
funny enough, but she came a long way and did her thing, and she in turn uh gave a lot of folks a little bit of a footing when she did certain things. So they reach back and all that.
Right.
I don't I think there's Adele. I haven't seen her do anything lately. I think when they did the Queens of Comedy, wasn't Adele, Shamor, um, Monique, and I think
Monique.
somebody else.
I forgot her name, but yeah, Adele.
I think her name's Adele.
Adele Gibbons.
Yeah.
Um. Yeah. She was. Yeah. She was around. I don't know what happened to her career. Um. She had them big teeth. Cheryl Underwood. Um.
Cheryl, who's
Let me
now, is that
think.
Cheryl on The View? Who's on the View?
I don't know. Whoopi Goldberg. I don't know.
Yeah, who started out, and her stand-up comedy was hilarious, and look where she is. But I think we forget about that, but she was a comedian.
Yep.
She
Whoopi
started,
Goldberg had a run too.
yeah,
Gotta think. Sister Act movies.
yeah,
Ghost.
yes.
Um.
Color Purple.
Duh. Yeah. How could I ever
Well,
forget
because a
Color
matter of
Purple?
fact, she won the Oscar for Ghost.
Right.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, but but
Yeah.
but she was a stand-up comedian. You
The
forget all.
movie.
Yeah, she was a stand-up
Yeah.
comedian. Yeah,
The movie Eddie. She was in
and
that. She was a basketball coach. They got
and when we
picked
talk
up.
about some of the movies, uh, Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier played in a couple of movies together that were good. Which Way Is Up? That's the
Which
first
way is
time. That's the first time I saw Shirley Ralph in a movie. She plays a school teacher, but one of the first movies she did, she played an unruly student and she cussed the teacher out. And it was a movie
mm,
with Bill Cosby and Sidney Poitier. So
with
yeah,
Cheryl Underwood in it?
no, Shirley Ralph.
Uh, Night Court.
No,
Wasn't she in that?
no,
What was that? What was the black girl in that?
that's I can't call her name. She's on 911. She's one of the firefighters, the EMT's mother. But that's not, yeah.
Mm,
But that was a good comedy show as well, Night Court.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. I can't. I see her face because she's a tall lady. I see her face, but I can't call her name. But yeah, she there was a couple of good comedians on that show as well. So that was
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
How do you feel about how today's comedians are coming up now, and that they don't have to do as much as the older comedians as far as like their run? Yes, they have to, put in their time and go around and, still travel. But think about how, in my opinion, it's a lot easier for them to get noticed versus how it used to be.
Let me pause. Ali Shadiq. Love his comedy. You know
Hmm.
who he is. Love his
Yeah.
comedy.
Went to
Uh,
prison and everything.
yeah, love his comedy.
Hmm. Hmm.
And that's an interesting point because you know that some of the people that I'm talking about that I grew up with, particularly being around great aunt and uncle and some of those shows, but your Richard Pryors, even probably for Eddie Murphy and those guys, and even though you don't like the Steve Harvey and some of those guys that did put in a lot of
They put in their
hard,
work.
but they put in a
Absolutely.
lot of hard
Yeah.
work, the little
Hmm.
comedy clubs and all that to get to where they were. So now here 20, 30 years, they're now reaping that. There's a lot to be said for some of the folks now who just, can do an Instagram something and there you are and you got a comedy special.
Absolutely.
It is because you got and I say that and not just the black comedians but both black and white back in the day. It was tough because you had to be funny enough for somebody to even want to book you to be in their club
Right.
and hope they would invite you back. You had to make sure you didn't go behind or in front of um, someone else. I was watching something. Ricky Smiley was saying because Ricky Smiley, stand-up comedian, as a matter of fact,
Absolutely.
and he said he did a show one time, and I watched it recently. He said I don't know who the person was, but he didn't want to go behind that person because it was so funny. He said, so what was I gonna do? He said the only reason it worked because I had been on the radio a little bit and I had that. He said outside of that, he said I did not. He said if they ever booked me, I needed to go first. I could not go, and I can't recall who he was talking about. He said because the man was too funny, and I was
Yeah.
just what was I gonna go out there and do, you know?
Ricky Smiley grinded. You got to think about it. Remember when BET they had their stand-ups going on, and DL started out that, and he
Yeah,
was the host for that, and then Ricky Smiley came in and took over as hosting that, and then he ran with that show. Like BET started out a lot of,
Yeah. And
acts off for people too.
what I love is that they're so giving about saying who helped them. Ricky Smiley will tell you that Steve Harvey made the way when Steve got this. Steve, he said he gives him the utmost respect for bringing him along and giving him the way. I love how they do that as opposed to some of the other industries. Music, you might give a little bit of props, but there's not too many other industries where people will stop and say, had it not been for so and so, I wouldn't, dragging me along or let me open up for them with that type of thing, then I wouldn't have. So it is different because when you don't, and I'm not saying that the other people, it's a different day and time, but it's something to be said when you knew you were living out your car, driving from comedy show to comedy club, trying to make a way, hoping you would get booked, as
Yeah,
opposed to the platforms they have now, and you can log on to Facebook or YouTube and see some stuff. Like the lady who I don't know if you've seen her. She wears the red church jacket, and she comes in. It's like church comedy. You have to catch her.
no, mm-mm,
I mean, they're making their way a different way, and not that
hmm.
there's anything wrong with that, but yeah, I mean, we know the stories of the guys back in the day that it was a hard life.
Well, you also got to think about it from this perspective, and like you just said, think about no social media.
Right.
You having to go around from city to city and making a name just off of I heard about that person
Correct.
versus them making a skit and doing a quick little stand up thing like now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
Like it's way simple. So I feel like now versus then, for you to have a name with no social media, man, I think that's way more. I think you're. I'm not gonna say you're more talented because that's in the beholder's eye,
right.
but it's just that grind, that type of grind. That's a different type of notoriety. You know what I mean?
Jamal, we forgot about the dad in Friday. I can't think of his name. He passed a couple of years ago.
John Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Hmm.
John Witherspoon. And what's important to understand, and I watched the interview he did, I think people miss out on how talented a lot of these guys were because they wrote their own jokes. They did their own
Right.
writing. They didn't have
Right.
a writing. He talks about
Yeah, they did. So Paul Mooney.
to some degree, but John Witherspoon talks about a lot of stuff he did because you had to. And Paul Mooney was so controversial. I mean, he was funny, but he was so controversial. It was just
Paul Mooney wrote for Richard Pryor. You know
he
what I'm
did.
saying?
He
Like
did.
so, Paul Mooney was on Dave Chappelle's show.
But at that
Charlie
time,
Murphy.
But
You know
at
what I'm
that
saying?
time, they had the money. What Witherspoon was saying is that back when they started, when he started out, he did his own stuff. Once you get the money behind you, you can have people writing for you. Like, is it Dion Cole, who's
Hmm.
also, I love his stands up, but once you get the money, but Witherspoon said he had to do his own stuff because he never necessarily had the money to have the writing team behind him to write his jokes. So he did his own thing,
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Hey, I think it's a gift for both. Like even well, I don't know if some people know this, but Kevin Hart came out back in the '90s, and I don't think a lot of people knew that. Kevin Hart, he had a brother, or has a brother. His brother was a comedian first, and his brother he was all right. He was somewhat funny. He was cool. Kevin Hart, when he first came out, in my opinion, wasn't funny until he got writers. And now I feel like, granted, yes, years, and he's practiced a lot and gotten better. But when Kevin Hart first came out, he wasn't all that funny to me. But then, like I said, he got those writers, and they went around his talent and made him flourish. I mean, talking about his dad, the way that he talked about him, knowing that he was a crackhead, and knowing that his parents was having their issues and stripes and everything like that, and he would tell the joke about how his dad never wore underwear. He didn't wear underwear. He would always wear
Always were what?
he used to wear sweats and he didn't wear underwear. So, you know, he had a joke about that. It's man, and then I I can't tell the whole joke, but then he told another joke about how his dad pushed him in the water.
Trying to get him to
and he
swim.
could and he couldn't swim. And he said the whole ride home he was mad. He said then his dad said the most dumbest thing at the end. Almost lost you there, huh?
You stupid.
Man, like Kevin Hart, he's had his moments and certain
And
things
but
I respect him for.
but it's
He's got the right people
wonderful.
around him.
It's wonderful when and I want I'm for the lack of a term to be able to laugh to make comedy out of life. Richard Pryor, because
Yeah.
if you know Richard Pryor's history, he had a to come out of and like that isn't easy by any means. But yeah, and then Charlie, his brother, I didn't realize until I watched something how funny Charlie was.
Oh
I had
yeah.
no idea how funny Charlie Murphy. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, and that he was.
Charlie Murphy
Did he?
makes that story. He tells a story about Rick James. You know
Yeah,
what I'm saying? On the
I
Chappelle
that we
show.
all thought it was a joke, but it wasn't a joke. It really
Yeah.
happened. Yeah.
Yeah. Like Charlie Murphy was funny. He was in CB4. Um Charlie Murphy was on Power before it went off. That was
Mm.
his last show that he was on because he was the one of the COs in Power before it went off, and then he ended up passing and stuff like that. That was the last thing he was a part of. Charlie Murphy was funny.
Yeah.
Like it was funny because it was years. Like how you know that they had some type of resemblance. And being a kid, you like, man, they
But it
look
took a minute
alike.
for you realized. Yeah.
That they're brothers, him
Yeah.
and Eddie because of how they used to roll and everything. And I was like, wow, that's different, but it's dope. But the person I think that doesn't truly get enough recognition for being funny, even though yes, he is Keenan Ivory Wayans, in my opinion. Like I don't think people really understand how funny In Living Color was. Like In
Oh
Living
no.
Color touched on too many topics every week, all the time. Like they were just a spoof. Think about the movies that they did. You know what I'm saying? Don't Be a Menace, the Scream movies, and all that type of stuff. Like they've always done like spoofs.
Now I don't like the two younger brothers as much as I like the older brothers.
Sean and Marlon.
Yeah, I don't particularly care for Sean and Marlon the same way that I do the older brothers that were on that started out with in Living Color. I don't I don't like those two as well.
I feel you. Now Keenan Ivory Wayans to him, I respect him because he's in my opinion, the epitome of keeping it within the family.
Yeah,
He had
absolutely.
all his brothers on there. One of the guys in the background, he didn't say too much, but was another. I think it was his oldest brother, SW1, which ended up being obviously Sean Wayans. The DJ, that was his brother. Damon was on there. Kim was on there. Like he put the whole family on.
And
So
it
then you got
worked.
to
It
absolutely
yeah. In this
everybody got
case,
paid from that.
but not only that, but they all had talent. It wasn't like, oh, we got to put his sister on this week. They all because Kim was funny in her own right.
I don't
They
want
all
to
had.
gossip. I don't mean to gossip, so you ain't heard that from me. That's where that comes from. You remember when she used to sit up there and she used to just she was nosy. But that little part, it was the truth because it was some woman in the hood that was always
Always,
around, just nosy.
always.
that told
Always.
everybody's gossip, and they made it funny. Like that type of stuff like that. That's comedy.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. So, Damon Wayans, him and
Always.
David Allen Greer, they made fun of, rated men. They had the two gay dudes, you know what I'm saying, in there. That type of comedy, you can't do that comedy now. You know what I'm saying? Like two
But
snaps and a
those
twist.
skits were hilarious. Yeah. And
Yeah,
everybody
like
and Homie the Clown. Homie don't play
Homie the
that.
Clown. You're not hitting no kids
Homie
now.
don't Homie don't play that.
Yeah, you're not hitting no kids with no milk and saying something stupid. Like, I wish you would hit some kid now talking about homie don't play that. That's comedy back then. That's what we grew up on. And
Yeah.
people I don't think understand, like, that's funny. The
Yeah.
Vera DeMilo. Jim Carrey, he was the guy, I don't
Fire
know, he was like one of the
Fire Mar
first.
Fire
Vera
Marshal
DeMilo.
Bill. Fire
Yeah, but
Marshal Bill. He went and
Vera
burned up all
DeMilo,
kind of stuff.
yeah, Vera DeMilo was Jim Carrey played like I don't know if he was a transvestite, I don't know what he was, but he was the bodybuilder, and she never had
Yes.
any
Yes.
weight. You know what I'm saying? So he used to do that one. Then he did the him and Damon Wayans. They were the preachers that was taking people's money at the churches.
I
Like
mean,
it's a whole bunch of stuff that went down with them. Like they
yeah.
was before their time.
But
I'm sorry.
Fire Marshal Bill burned up more stuff. You'd be like, please don't do this at home. Do not learn
Yes,
from Fire Marshal Bill. Yeah,
yes,
yeah. So,
yeah. Like all that stuff is
absolutely.
legendary. That's legendary type comedy that still stands to this day. Like do you remember when Damon Wayans was uh he was the he was the philosopher that was in prison, and he used to use all the wrong words, like when he was talking about stuff in prison, and he would say like, the prognostication. I'm
Yes,
sorry,
yes,
the
yes, yes.
prognostication, and he would say the words wrong. So that's why a lot of people laugh at Ti now, because Ti uses those big words now, and it's like he sounds just like that dude Damon Wayans was when he was in prison. It's stuff like that, man. Like
Yeah,
Ken Ivory Wayans is a legend. I'm sorry, he is a legend
yeah. Laughter
especially in
is
the black
good.
community.
Laughter is
Absolutely,
good. Laughter is good. Laughter
absolutely.
is good. Okay, nephew, we promised that we would try to stay on time.
Yep.
We're going to have to shift everyone a little bit next week because I will be doing some entrepreneur stuff next Saturday, and
Yeah.
so
So
I
no
won't
show
be able.
next week.
So we're gonna, yep, and we're just gonna keep it. So we'll have to. I've loved the two topics we've had. Listen, I still need a belt. I need a new belt. Please, somebody send me a new belt to P.O. Box 490, Powder Springs, Georgia 30127. Email us some topics. Stay with us. Again, we see two people, but we know there are probably some others in the background. You could have been doing anything else on Saturday night, but you chose to join us, and we greatly appreciate you. We appreciate the followers, the interaction. We want you to have a good week, and we will talk to you maybe in another week or so. Our schedule's a little bit busy, but thank you. Love you. Talk to you guys
Yes.
soon. Have a good night. Talk to you later, nephew.
Love you. Love you.
Okay, love you too. Bye. Bye.
Later.